Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. As you can see, I'm here with a very special guest today by the name of HEENDOO. Hopefully that was a good introduction, but how
Yeah.
you doing, my man?
Man, I'm pretty good, man. It's good weather in Minnesota. It's not too cold yet, so I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm also doing pretty good. Who's the Wolves jersey you got behind you?
Believe it or not, it was when it was right before he got traded. They were having a sale at Champs, so I got me that jersey for real cheap. So I just have it hung up on the wall since we don't wear those jerseys anymore.
Yeah, and it looks kind of fire. It looks like the Prince inspired ones that they had like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
1 year. So that's kind of cool. And I see you got Kawhi there as well. That's also pretty
yep.
dope. Um,
Big Quagga.
but we got a lot of topics to talk about today. I think the first one we're going to discuss is Luke Walton and the Sacramento Kings. They finally parted ways. They've been together for 2.5 years, probably 2.5 years too long, I'd say. But what are your thoughts on the whole Luke Walton firing happening?
So, I mean, I was never really a big fan of him when he was on the Lakers as their coach. I just never saw it. I think he's too young. I mean, when you have players who've played in the league, I feel like you have a better understanding as being a coach. Like, I know it's a little different, but like, I used to play high school basketball, believe it or not. And then I wanted to coach at one point, and I kind of there's like similarities there. You're a player, you know what goes on the court, you know the aspect of the game, you know a lot of different things that people who don't like never played basketball professionally have. But Luke Walton was just never a guy who I thought was a good coach. And what he was doing with Marvin Bagley, like not playing him, even though there was a little drama around that, it's a little ridiculous to me. But I mean, I don't think it's going to solve the Kings' problems at all. I think it's just something that's just like a little road bump for the Kings. But overall, I don't see this as changing the Kings for throughout this whole 82 game season. I don't think they're going to get a lot better just because they got rid of Luke Walton. The roster's not that great, but it's pretty good in my opinion, but still very young. And Luke Walton was a young coach, 6 and 11. It's terrible, but I'm not too fond of the Kings either. I'm not the biggest Kings fan, but Luke Walton I never liked him as a coach.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel bad for the Kings, to be honest, because like they've gone so long, I feel like, where they've just had so much disappointment. Like
Yeah.
I saw a stat recently that I think Luke Walton is officially the 10th coach they've had since 2006, and obviously that's their last playoff appearance. So having that many coaches in that time and having nothing really to show for it, pretty disappointing. But it seemed inevitable. I mean, I'd never really understood why they got rid of Dave Yeager like in 2019 because that was like the best season they've had since 2006. And then they get rid of him literally right after the season ended. I think it was the day after they were like their season was done. And then having Luke Walton for those years didn't really work out. It seemed like Tristan Thompson was, saying stuff like, I don't need no coach to inspire me.
Oh,
De'Aaron
yeah.
Fox, he was like completely, it seemed like he was dodging anything that was like anti Luke Walton. And I don't know if you saw like that post game interview a few days ago or something, but that was kind of like a red flag, I'd say so too. So it never really made sense, in my opinion, why they got him there. It just, I mean, you even remember, I'm sure too, like that season, like with the Lakers, like he was getting a lot of backlash as well because everyone expected them to do big things. I mean, they just got LeBron. I know LeBron missed some games with injury, but I'm sure everyone thought that they were gonna, make some noise in the West. Then they didn't even make the playoffs. You know, I mean, that's kind of a disappointment. So I don't know. It just seemed like it made no sense when they got him, and it kind of went on probably too long. But I guess they just kind of gotta hope that they get the right replacement, because they don't want to
Yeah.
have like the 11th coach and no playoff appearances to show for it. Because Sacramento Kings, they've been down this road before, and it just looks like everything that looks kind of good at first keeps getting worse. So I don't know. That's kind of like where I stand, but I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, I feel you. I feel you. I kind of think of him like as, Ryan Saunders was never a good coach. A lot of Minnesota people, I kind of relate to that. We knew Saunders was not a good coach. He should have got him out of there. He was in the office for way too long. I feel like the same thing was for Luke Walton. I think the front office knew he wasn't going to do anything with that young team, and it should have been time to cut him off months and months ago. But I guess they kept him for God knows whatever reason. But I've heard the rumors about Alvin Gentry, so I don't know what you think about that.
I mean, I don't know what you would think about it, but personally for me, I've never really been high on Alvin Gentry as a head coach. Now, as a top assistant, I mean, I could understand that. I just feel like as a head coach, I checked this the other day. I believe he's made the playoffs less times than he's gotten fired. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean that's kind of the only stat you probably need to look at. But
Yeah.
I mean, just in terms of like recently, as a head coach, he really hasn't had much success since like 2010 with the Suns, and I feel like that's a lot of years to go by where you haven't really done much. So I don't know how I feel about that. But all I can say is that for the Sacramento Kings, and even going back to the coaching thing, they're probably the only franchise that you could think of over the past like 2010s decade that you can't think of like a key coach for them over that span, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of like where I stand. But yeah, hopefully for the Kings, they can get like the right replacement.
Oh yeah, I hope so. I mean, they're really heavy. They're heavy on their guards. You got Davion, you got Tyrese, you got De'Aaron. I'm wondering what De'Aaron's really thinking in his head, just going through like a couple coaches in a few seasons. I feel like he kind of relates to Towns in a way, you know. But I
Right.
mean, hopefully they'll figure it out. I mean, they have to at some point. I don't think this can go on for much longer, to be honest, with an unhappy star in De'Aaron Fox. Because I think if it goes on for a couple more seasons or months, you don't know what'll happen in Sacramento, you know?
Yeah, and I like that you also brought up Towns, and we're gonna get into your
Yeah.
Timberwolves here, but we got one more topic before them, and it was the big fight that happened recently. You know, people were calling LeBron, they were labeling him LeRon Artest
Uh,
on Twitter. I wouldn't go that far. I mean, he wasn't going that crazy, obviously, but obviously him and Isaiah Stewart had an altercation. So I guess what I'll ask you is, what did you think about the altercation and how the league, handled it with the suspensions and stuff?
I mean, honestly, I feel like LeBron should have definitely got suspended for a good amount of time. Like at least 5 games minimum was in my head. That's what I was thinking. Just due to the fact in some of those angles, I don't know if you saw that one angle. You can tell he knew Stewart was there, and he just hit him with the real hard fist. And I feel bad for Stewart, you know, because so far that's probably his career defining moment. And for a young player like that, especially on the Pistons, you don't want your career defining moment to be getting punched by LeBron and bleeding all over the court and then trying to kill him. But I mean, as far as Isaiah Stewart, I think he's a good player, definitely has a bright future with the Pistons. But LeBron, though, he's been in the league for so long, you should, be able to control your body movement and everything just because you're a veteran like him. He's one of the best players in the world. You shouldn't be throwing your fist at these young players. You got to control your anger a little more. But as far as that goes, I mean, I think the league handled it all right, but I think there should be some heavier suspensions for especially LeBron. I mean, Isaiah Stewart went crazy. I hope he gets, what did Isaiah Stewart get suspended for? I didn't see any updates on that yet though
I
on him.
think I think it was just for the way that like he conducted himself, the like how he kept like pushing people over, like
Yeah,
trying to attack him or something. But I mean, in my opinion, I mean I am, and I don't want to sound like a LeBron hater or something,
yeah,
but I'm glad that he did get suspended for the simple fact that it shows that the league isn't like against doing this to the top of the top tier players. Like they
yeah,
very well could have been like, oh, like it's LeBron or it's Durant or like whoever, Paul George, Steph Curry, and they could have been like, oh, well, they're that level player, we're not going to suspend them. But no, they actually did. Now, in terms of how they suspended him, I don't know if I would have given him 1 game. I feel like that's kind of cheesy. Um, but at the same time, I believe, I don't know if you saw the fine. Like, I think LeBron got fined pretty much like 6 or 7 times as much as Isaiah Stewart or something like that. So I guess there is that to take into account. But I don't know. I just think that yeah, he wasn't trying to hit him in the face, in my opinion, but at the same time, it's like he definitely was trying to hit him in some
yeah.
degree. He just happened to make contact with his face. I think he was more trying to like get him like
Arm.
here or something like that, like get
Yeah.
off me, and then he just happened to get him in the face. And I mean that is a flagrant too, and that's why he got ejected in that game. Uh, but yeah, I think that it probably wasn't something crazy like you see people saying, "Oh, he should get suspended for like 20 games, 10 games." I'm like, I don't know about that, but somewhere between maybe like 3 to 5 games, I could
Yeah.
understand. Isaiah Stewart, I mean, people were saying stuff like, I don't know if you saw Gilbert Arenas' post on Instagram. Like he
Oh
was,
yeah.
yeah, like he was saying something like, oh, like you're done now. Like you better be packing your bags because you're gonna get sent out of town. I mean, it's not that crazy in my opinion. I mean, yes, he was pretty upset, but at the same time, it's like, did you see his face?
Yeah.
The
I
guy
mean, I
was
would have been as
bleeding
mad.
everywhere. So maybe you could have suspended him like 3 to 5 games as well. But I don't know. I think that they could have been a little more strict, but I wouldn't have been like too strict to the point where it like ruins either of their seasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like if you would have gave LeBron like you said, I saw people were saying 10-game suspension for LeBron. That's going to ruin the Lakers. I mean, it's already pretty ruined. I'm going to be honest. I'm not too big on the Lakers this year, but I think 5 games is a good amount of time. I mean, 1 game is not enough in my opinion. It's kind of like you're brushing it off, but 5 will kind of make a statement to the rest of the league that even if you're a superstar, if you do something that you're not supposed to, there's going to be consequences for it, and you're going to have to face them no matter who you are. And if everyone's going to see, oh, LeBron got suspended for 5 games, I better control my anger. I better like make sure what I'm doing is right. I don't want to hurt another player and then get suspended and ruin my season. Like if it was Paul George, it would have been over for the Clippers. You know, like the Clippers season would have been done. But I don't know. I'm a little bit against LeBron's side here. You know, I would have been real mad if I was Isaiah Stewart, especially with all that blood that was leaking. But overall, I mean, it's whatever. You know, the NBA is going to do what the NBA does, and it's out of our control. So,
Yeah, and like you said, it would have been horrible for the Lakers, especially since like LeBron just got back. You know, like I think that
yeah.
was what his first game back since he was out for a while, and then like took him out again for the third time this year. I mean, like, and I've voiced myself on my own channel here. I'm sure you've seen me on Twitter. I'm not high on the Lakers either,
Yeah.
so they probably could use LeBron out there as much as possible. So I mean, it's good in that sense, but I don't know. Like we'll just have to see what happens, like how the Lakers end up responding from this, and what I guess is to come from Isaiah Stewart after this.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can move on. We can talk about your team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who
Yeah.
are currently, I believe, on a 4-game win streak. And I saw a stat actually on Twitter that the trio of Cat, D'Lo, and Anthony Edwards have the eighth best defensive rating for like any 3-man group in the league right now. And I looked at like all the other lineups like that. I mean, some of them had like one star player, maybe two, but no one really had like a big three the way that the Timberwolves do. So, and we know what they can provide offensively. So I guess what I'll ask you is that, do you think the Wolves can start bringing back a playoff atmosphere to Minnesota and kind of keep up this good play?
So I was to start off, I was at the Timberwolves playoff game. I think it was game 5. It was game 5 against Houston and Minnesota in 2018 when Jimmy Butler was here when I had the jersey. But as far as what I can tell you, I know some people have gone to the games. They're like the atmosphere here is a lot different than it was last season and even the season prior, just due to the fact that teams playing defense. The seasons before that, there was no defense, but I think we're going to test up Jared Vanderbilt and Patrick Beverly. I think Vando said in an interview that since Pat Bevs came in, he's been like hollering at all the guys, and it's kind of been rubbing off on them, making them want to play defense. Because beforehand, we didn't really have like a defensive anchor like that. I mean, we would have young players, but no one who's going to elevate the team like Patrick Beverly does. We know what he does. Comes in, he has hustle, he has heart, he plays the game at 110%. He gives his body out for the team just to win games. He'll do whatever he can. And I think the Timberwolves with that trio, man, I know we're a little young and a lot of people say D'Lo's not an all-star player anymore, but I think he has the potential to be. But with Minnesota, I think he's going to be the third option in my opinion. I feel like in a couple of years, Anthony Edwards is going to be the first option. I mean, Beasley, when he came in, we know he plays pretty solid defense, but one guy I'm really surprised of on this team this year is going to be Jared Vanderbilt. He's taken a great leap. I think, honestly, he can win most improved player, but he's more like a dark horse. I think if you've watched D'Lo, I don't know how much you've watched D'Lo when he was in Brooklyn and on the Lakers, but he never really gave the defensive intensity that a team wanted. But with Minnesota and Chris Finch, the guy's out there working. There was I forgot what stat it was, but it proved that D'Lo was like a really good guard defender and like an on-ball defender. I saw it the other day, but I think D'Lo as an on-ball defender this season is his best season ever in the league, and even Towns is locked in on defense. Every single person's giving 110%. Pat Bev's just making him work 110%. He's giving his body for the game, and he's kind of like those player coaches, like I'd say LeBron's a player coach for the Lakers, but Pat Bev's bringing the intensity and making the guys work just like Jimmy Butler did. So I think if we continue on this streak, it's going to be a 5th game tonight. We're going to win 5 games in a row starting tonight. I think this team can make the play, and I'm going to be honest, especially with the Lakers not being too great, but overall, the team being locked in on defense has been the game changer, and Anthony Edwards, too, he's playing great defense. I know a lot of people don't really talk about Ant when they talk about a defensive player, but Anthony Edwards, with his size and his build, I don't know, it's going to be dangerous, especially when he becomes the number 1 option for Minnesota in a couple seasons.
Yeah, I think, talking back, well, first I'll start with Ant. I think he might have been the best thing to happen low-key for Minnesota because, in a sense, like when people first saw Cat and D'Lo together and, they weren't able to like play as many games together because one was always out, the other was always out. But having like Ant there, I feel like it kind of provides like more stability that you can at least have 2 or 3 guys even if one's missing. But at the same time, it's interesting you say that about D'Lo. I don't think he's definitely a guy that gives effort on the defensive end. I think that sometimes like the analytic people will try and like shred him to pieces in a little bit in that regard. But I mean, he's definitely someone from what I've seen that puts in a lot of effort on the defensive end. Karl-Anthony Towns, I think this is kind of like a make or break season, I think. And I think right now it's kind of making for the Timberwolves because I think that there's a lot of potential going forward with this team. They're still pretty young for the most part. I mean, people also clown like Patrick Beverley before the season started, saying like, "Oh, I've never missed the playoffs," which I think that's false because I think he did miss it his first year with the Clippers. But anyways, like they clowned him because he said like, "Oh, we're gonna make it." But I mean, I don't know if you even saw my prediction video, but I think I had the Timberwolves in the play-in, and I think I had them losing the game for the 8th seed. So that's about as close as it gets. I mean, I think they have a chance that they could make the playoffs. And then guys like Malik Beasley off the bench, who I've always said is one of the most underrated players in the league, and now he's kind of taken that backseat role this year, and he's done a pretty good job. Josh Okogie, he's not bad defensively. So I think they definitely have the pieces, and it's just kind of like a fun season, I think, for the Timberwolves, especially that now these guys are all healthy and they're all playing together. Because I think they definitely have the talent of a playoff team. And if they do make it there, then they'd be probably one of the most entertaining teams to watch.
I got to add to that. I feel like, we're probably, in my opinion, we're the deepest team in the league. Our 3rd stringers can be a bench unit for a different team, I feel like our 3rd string guys can definitely beat the Rockets. I know that's going to sound crazy, but we have some 3rd string guys that'll go out there and give you 110%. One guy who I think has a lot of defensive potential, and I've made a video on him, is Leandro Balmero. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he played for Barcelona. He's really good as an on-ball defender. He's really good at getting over screens, has some real good size at 6'7". I think his wingspan's like 7 feet, something like that, but he's real good as an on-ball defender, and Chris Finch hasn't really played him just due to the fact we already have 10 guys who he has locked in every single night to play, and Josh Okogie's that 10th guy, but he's been injured recently, so he hasn't been playing. But overall, I love this team. I think we're really deep, and if D'Lo does stay healthy and Ant stays healthy and they're all just real consistent on the defensive end and locked in, my prediction was 6th seed, but now looking at it, just because, the teams kind of had that little rough patch, I think this team can definitely be a play-in team. And I mean, as long as we make the playoffs, I saw people were saying Towns should request a trade. When it was like a couple weeks back when Roses got fired, and it was terrible, man. I think Towns isn't going to request a trade if we do make the playoffs, or if we don't make the playoffs. I think it's going to be a little bit of a rough situation just due to the fact he knows the team's young, but so far he's the number 1 option on the team. But if we don't make the playoffs, I don't know. That's probably going to make him real upset. You've given your all and you've been so loyal to a team just to not make the playoffs, and you had all your talent this year. I mean, I just hope we make the play, and that's what I'm saying right now. But I'm hoping we make the playoffs so I can go to one of the games and I can see what the intensity's like. But so far this year, I think this is probably the best and most talented team the Timberwolves have had in the past 15 years.
Wow. Oh, okay. I
This is
mean,
yeah.
that's an interesting take. I mean, I don't know if I'd say it was quite up there with the Jimmy Butler team. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that as a Timberwolves fan, but yeah, I think it's definitely, of all the other years that they've had Karl-Anthony Towns, like all the other cores, I think this is probably the best that they've been. And you even hit it like kind of on the nail when you said Josh Okogie, he's been our 10th man. Well, this guy, he kind of had a bigger role in the rotation when guys like Jimmy Butler and Rose and Wiggins and those guys were on the team. And those teams were seen as like serious playoff contenders. So I don't know. I think that says a lot about how deep they are, and maybe more people should be giving them a little bit more attention. Um, but yeah, we could talk about another team that, uh, this team is kind of on the other side of things from the Minnesota Timberwolves right now because they're losing a lot, and I believe they've lost 15 straight. The Houston Rockets. So how long do you think that this losing thing is going to go on with the Rockets, and what have you seen really from like the young guys on the team, like the Jalen Greens and the Kevin Porter Juniors?
I've only watched a couple games, like about 4 or 5 games. So I'm on a small sample size here, but I have watched some highlights. But from what I've seen, this team needs a point guard. I know a lot of people are saying Kevin Porter Jr. should run the point guard, but I think what we've seen this year, the guy's not too good as a point guard. Jalen Green and him are kind of they're identical in my opinion because they're like bucket first type of guys. But Jalen Green's shot creation definitely needs a lot of work. And overall, they're the youngest team in the league, definitely for sure. I think they're going to lose at least 5 more games. And you got John Wall sitting on the bench getting paid a lot of money to not really do anything. But I think they want to see what they can do with the roster they have now, and the front office is probably gonna build off that in the off season and draft whoever they need to or trade. But overall, I don't know. This team's very young. I don't see them doing anything at all. Maybe 15 wins at most, but so far, I don't know. They're going to lose at least 5 more games. This team's just terrible on the defensive end. They're fun to watch sometimes. They have their spurts on offense, but I don't know what you got to say about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that, like they do have their games where sometimes, they could be fun to watch. I think the Lakers game is probably a good example because, they actually almost won that game, surprisingly. And I think it was in LA. But I think so far, I mean, Kevin Porter Jr. has been pretty inefficient playing so far. Jalen Green, I mean, I don't know about you, but when he was drafted, I was never really too high on Jalen Green.
Yeah,
And
me either.
I feel like now, like, and I know he's still a rookie, and it's like, seems dumb to say this when someone's a rookie, but the way the NBA is now, there's not like that patience level that you had in the past. Guys like Scottie Pippen that would take 3, 4 years before they develop, or Kobe Bryant who took like 4 years before he became a star. Now it's almost like, I mean, we saw it like with Markel Fultz, for example. He was just in his second year. That was something he couldn't even control, like the pinched nerve in his shoulder. He got traded before the end of his second season. And I'm not saying that they're going to trade him or anything like that, but I think they might have to start like reconsidering, if this keeps up for a long time over the course of this season and maybe like starting next season, then maybe they'll have to start reconsidering like, was this the pick for us or not? And I don't know. I just think that the good thing, I guess, for this losing streak, I'll give them a little hope. I was checking their schedule over the next few games. I think they play like the Thunder twice and the Magic once, so they could end it pretty soon. But again, like if you're losing those games and then you got the tougher teams coming up, then things aren't looking so good. And of course, like at the end of the day, like they aren't a good team. Like people aren't expecting them to make the playoffs anyways,
Yeah.
or even the play in. So you'd want to lose. But I just think like for the sake of your own team, like your humility, you wouldn't want to be known as that team who had like the biggest losing streak ever, like at the same time. So that's kind of like all I'll say about that. Like they kind of got a few spots they need to address still. But of course, they are still a pretty young team, and they could work it out by later this season with what they want to see down the line, or next season because they probably won't be contending in either of those seasons. Like, let's be real here.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like yeah, how you said there's like a stigma sort of for young players now, especially if you're like a lottery pick or a top 20 pick. I feel like a lot of teams kind of give up on players a little too soon. But what we're seeing from the Rockets, I mean, with all the hype that Jalen had coming in saying he's the best player, kind of that little clash against Cade. I think in the little short span that Cade's been playing, I think he's definitely already proved that he's a better player than Jalen Green so far. But I don't know what we'll see in 5 years. But so far, I don't know. I think Green was the pick to make at second. You weren't going to take anyone else, but they need to address a lot of holes they have in the roster. I mean, Sengun's a good center. He's very good at playmaking. He's underrated, in my opinion, in that aspect. But overall, this team's very young. I'd say the youngest team in the league. But yeah, as you said, you don't want to be known as that team who lost all these games in a row. If they lost 30 games in a row, everyone's going to remember that in like 2 years. If they make the playoffs somehow in a couple seasons, then I guess maybe that'll change my mind. But so far, I'm not too high on the Rockets, and I think they'll probably lose a couple more games. So
Yeah, and like you said, like they got guys like Sengun, they got like Armani Brooks. Like these guys have shown flashes of playing pretty well, but I don't know. It just doesn't look too good right now for the
yeah.
Houston Rockets. But let's move on. Let's talk about a team that has kind of flipped the script a little bit in recent games, and that is the Boston Celtics. Now, I feel like I've been kind of critical of the Boston Celtics on my page personally. I just don't think that I see eye to eye with a lot of other people with like how they stand as like a contender or like their placement in the Eastern Conference. But recently, I mean, they've been playing a lot better. So, what do you think of the Celtics, I guess, over these past few games?
I mean, personally, I've only watched like 8 games of the Celtics, and I know for a little span, Jalen Brown was out. I don't know if he's still out currently. I don't know the update on that, but Tatum's having an all right season. We know he had those little rough patches, and that definitely was a detriment to the team. But I know a lot of people during the offseason were saying this team's going to go in, it's going to be a top 3 seed. And I don't think it's going to happen, man. I know you got Dennis Schroeder on the team, very good pickup, especially for the price. He's coming in, he's trying to prove himself. But overall, this team, I don't see them as a contender. I'm not really scared of the Celtics overall. I mean, they're still a young team, but you have two guys in Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum who are two of the, I think they're top 25, both of them for sure. But with the roster you have right now, you got to at least make the playoffs. They'll definitely make the playoffs, but I don't see the expectations happening that people set on them during the offseason.
Yeah, I think it's kind of ironic because I feel like they kind of fit the opposite of like what I was just discussing with the Rockets in the sense where it's like, people are more impatient with the younger players. But like now we've seen Boston, and this is year 6 for Jalen Brown. It's year 5 for Jason Tatum. They've had Marcus Smart on the team. I think this is his 8th season. So they've had these guys for quite some time now, and I mean they're still buying in, even though like in past situations, like they've kind of put the blame. It seems like on other players, like they put the blame on Kyrie, they put blame on Hayward and like Kemba saying he was too injured, Brad Stevens as a coach, and maybe like that was true to an extent, but I think there has to come a point in time where like you look yourself in the mirror and be like, what's the constant here? That's the reason we're not finding much success because it seems like they were supposed to be up there with the Nets and the
Yeah.
Bucks and the 76ers, like with Embiid. But I mean, I don't know if they're really on par with those teams. I don't know if they're on par with my Chicago Bulls, if we're being real here. So I don't know. Like, that's just something to consider. But maybe this is a turning point in the season. I mean, Jason Tatum has looked a lot better in the recent games. So there is that. And he has improved every single season over the course of the time. So maybe there's that. If Jalen Brown can keep playing at an all-star caliber level, then they have something solid to look forward to down the line. But I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't see them quite on par with these other teams. And like maybe they could be a second round exit, but they'd have to be very lucky. Like they'd have to have a really fortunate path probably to even get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And if that's like your ceiling, if that's like your highest hopes, then I don't know what you're doing because I feel like every team that's that solid should want to go for a championship. Um, I don't know. I don't know if you would agree with that or not, or if you think it's kind of like maybe they
No,
could do more.
I agree with you. I think they definitely could be on par with the Nets. I think they need like a third piece to add to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, a guy who plays real good defense. I know Jaylen Brown's a good defender and Tatum does his thing, but I think this team needs one more piece. And Al Horford's not that piece. Robert Williams isn't that piece. Naismith isn't that piece. None of those young guys who come off the bench or do their thing are the third piece. I think this team needs another superstar player even though they're in the East, in my opinion, it's an easier conference, but I think this team's not on par as they should be, and the expectations just aren't going to be met. And I mean, I pretty much agree with you, but I think this team, if they don't do a lot this season or just kind of show what they can do with these players in this roster, I think they're going to definitely have to add another piece or do something with the front office to switch it up because it's a little disappointing for Tatum being in his would you say sixth season, and
Uh,
Brown no
yeah,
Brown was
like
in his fifth.
Brown's in his sixth and Tatum's in his
Brown.
fifth. But I mean, like, yeah, like you're kind of right. I just think, and I kind of agree with you. Like, I thought when they had, Kemba and when they had Hayward and even like Marcus Smart was playing well, like 2020 season. Like, yeah, maybe now, like in hindsight, it doesn't look like the best fit or something like that. Maybe those guys wouldn't make sense now. But I just thought like then, like they had like four or five guys that could drop like 20 on any given night. And basically no other team in the league had that. Maybe before then, like the Kevin Durant Warriors, obviously they had that, but then that team had just split up. And I feel like Boston was the next best team in doing so. So that's kind of like, I guess, why I'm not so high on them anymore. But I don't know. I just feel like that kind of made them like put them over the top to have like so many different offensive scoring threats. They still had solid rim protection, like Robert Williams and stuff like that. So I don't know, like that's just where I stand on the Celtics. But I mean, hopefully for their sake, like this is a turning point, like in the season.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think they're just one more piece away, but hopefully they can prove something this season. But overall, yeah, I just don't see the expectations being met, man. I just don't see it. I mean, you used to, yeah, like you said, they used other players as scapegoats back then, and now that this team isn't performing too well like they should, I think you got to look at what you have on the team and level out the playing field and say, can we win and can we be a contending team with this roster here and what these guys can do?
Right, and I mean, I totally agree. Um, but you want to move on now to the
Yeah.
NBA trivia segment? This is what everyone loves the most, I'd say. Um, I'll explain the rules for the people watching. So basically, how it works is there's five questions. Each question has five hints. And if he guesses the person or thing or whatever right, then in less hints, then he gets more points. So say he uses one hint, gets it correct, 5 points, two hints, 4 points, and then it keeps on going. Each question he gets three guesses and also two skips, so to kind of be safe with his points. Then at the very end, there's a 5 point question. There's no hints on that one. I don't know if I told you that, but there's no
Yeah.
hints on this question about me, and it's just like something about me in the NBA. Overall, if you get all those like on the first guess, then for one, you're a legend because no one else has done
I was
that.
about to ask.
And two, that would be worth 30 points. So hopefully that makes sense. Are you
Got it.
ready for the trivia?
Let's go, man.
Alrighty. So here's the first thing. This is a player in NBA history, could be past or present. Um, and the first hint is this guy was a Chicago Bull for only one day.
Oh my
Now,
God.
you could skip and be safe, or you could try and guess here for the 5 pointer, but it could be a little risky.
So you said I get a couple hints?
You get well, there's five possible hints on each one. You could ask for the next hint now, or you could guess, but you get three guesses and two skips for each like question set.
Yeah, give me a hint here.
Okay, so that's one of your skips. So the fourth or the 4 pointer now, second hint is he was the youngest player to ever make his NBA debut.
Oh my God. Oh my God, you're actually tricking me here. Dang. Chicago Bull, young player, youngest player. Okay.
He was a Bull for one day, just one day.
One day. Oh man. And get another hint.
You can skip. You have one more skip available, but then after that,
Yeah,
you can just freely guess.
let me skip.
Okay, so the third hint, this is worth 3 points now. He has been teammates with players such as Kobe Bryant, Kyrie Irving, and Paul George.
Oh, what the? Dude, you are tricking me here. Andrew Bynum? No, 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 no. It's not Andrew Bynum. It's not Andrew. That was a terrible guess.
Are you
Um,
guessing Andrew Bynum?
yeah, I'll just take a guess at Andrew Bynum for that first one, even though I know it's not him.
Well, it's a
Oh,
good thing you trusted your gut because it was Andrew Bynum.
oh, are you serious?
It is, yeah.
Oh man,
That,
when
that's
you
pretty
name those
impressive.
plays.
I thought maybe that was gonna trick you. I'm like, oh, he has it, but I didn't want to like throw you off guard. But that's pretty good. So you got 3 points
Let's
right
go.
now. I always tell my guests it's always good to try and get like at least 10. So you're on pace right now to get the 10. Um, so here's the second question, first hint. Now this is a basketball move. It's something you do on the basketball court, and it's generally used in the NBA for scoring around the rim. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that it is the act of scoring or something like that, but it's used for people that like to score around the rim.
Pump fake.
I'm sorry, it is not the pump fake. So that's your first strike. You're still good. You're about to get the next hint, uh, and you have two more guesses available. So, second hint, second question. This move is correlated, I guess, with the gravity a player draws. So usually, it ends up being a play used when someone draws a lot of attention on defense, and for scoring around the rim. Um, and yeah, now you do
Let
have
me get an
okay.
Yeah, let me get another skip.
Okay, so the third hint, second question, uh, players such as Derrick Rose and Stephen Curry both used this move several times in their MVP seasons.
Underhand layup.
It is not an underhand layup. Um, Now that's the second strike. I'm going to give you the next one here, the fourth hint for 2 points. It's something that you initiate off the ball. So like you start the play
Screen.
without the ball. All right, wait, what did you guess? Sorry.
I guess screen, but I don't think it's screen, is it? I'm
Uh,
gonna guess screen. No, 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 no. It's not screen. It can't be screen, man. You're getting my brain tied up here. Oh man.
you could still skip. You have another skip available.
Yeah, let me do another skip, man, because my brain's giving out on me.
Okay, the last hint. Now, if you get this, you'll still get 1 point. It's essentially the opposite of a V cut. So like if you know a V cut, like it's when the players go down like toward the basket and flare out a little bit. It's kind of the opposite of that.
Dude, you got me. I have no clue, honestly. On my brain, I have no clue at all.
You don't want to throw out a guess?
Um, off ball. I don't know. Off ball cut, something like that. I don't know, man. I honestly don't know.
Uh, what kind of cut though?
Backdoor cut.
It is a backdoor cut. I'll give that to you because you
All
know
right.
I'm not gonna lie, that might be the hardest one I've ever given anyone. So I'm honestly kind of impressed. But yeah, that might have been hard because it was about like scoring at first. That's kind of something you do like without the ball, but that's pretty good. I mean, you still got a point there. And I think personally for me, that was the hardest of the five. So you got 4 points, uh, and you're still on pace for the 10. So the third question, first hint, is this current player has made one All Star team in his career, and he made it by way of an injury replacement.
Zach Levine.
It is not Zach Levine.
Oh,
So that's
trying to
strike
think.
number one. You still got two more guesses left, and also two skips. Here's the second hint. Um, on the third question, he finished higher than both Russell Westbrook and former Minnesota Timberwolves Kevin Love in Rookie of the Year voting during their rookie season.
Oh my God, that's a long time ago. Jeez, man. Let me get a skip on this one.
Okay, so the third hint is he holds the record for most 3-point shots attempted in a season for anyone 7 foot or taller.
Oh my Oh, Jesus Christ. Let me get another skip, man.
Okay. And then after this, like you can freely guess on this question, but
All right.
the fourth hint is he is the all-time leading scorer in Nets franchise history.
Oh my God, what's his name? Oh my God, I'm literally trying to think. Um, God, this one's. I'm trying to think of Nets, man. Nets, young Nets back in the day. Oh, jeez, man, you really getting me here. Is it Brooke Lopez?
It is Brooke Lopez. That's pretty good. So
All right.
that's 2 points there. The last one was both him and his brother have played in the NBA since 2008, so that probably would have given it away because him and Robin. But I mean that's pretty good. So you got 6 points so far, and only four more, and you get the 10 that I say everyone like should aim for. But let's go. Fourth question, first hint. This NBA team. Now this is an NBA team
Okay.
used their first ever pick in franchise history to select the one and only Pat Riley as a player, so back when he played.
The Lakers?
It is not the Lakers.
Oh my God, dude.
Okay, so the second hint is among all teams that have ever made it to the NBA Finals, they have the sixth longest active drought.
For the NBA Finals?
Among the teams that have made it there. So this kind of disqualifies the teams that have never been there. So only the teams that have been there.
Jeez, man.
And they're the sixth longest drought currently of those teams.
Of making the finals.
Yes.
Ah, jeez. Um, I want to say Boston Celtics, but there's no way that's right.
Are you guessing Boston, or do you want to use a skip?
Let me use the skip again.
Okay, so the third hint is this franchise has had a winner of the MVP, the Coach of the Year, the Most Improved Player, and the Sixth Man of the Year, all since 2010.
Oh my God. Jeez. Dude, I am.
I know that's a
Mm,
lot. Personally, for me, I'd probably think of like the MVPs first and like what teams have won one since 2010. But
I wish I was a Pat Riley fan, so I knew that I would have got it off that first one. But oh man, there's a lot of teams. I already guessed Lakers. I already guessed Celtics.
well, no, you didn't guess Celtics, but you could now if you want, or you could skip again. You got one more skip available.
It's not him. Jeez, man. You said I have one more skip?
Yeah, you can skip here if you want, or you
Yeah,
could
let
guess.
me skip.
Okay, so the fourth hint is this team was originally located in San Diego. And now for this question, you can freely guess.
Jeez, San Diego. I'm not that old. Jeez, man. Yeah, I already guessed Lakers. What other team was in San Diego? Jeez. How many guesses do I have left?
Two. So you can guess like for the rest of this question if you want.
Um, just trying to think. The Clippers?
That's actually a good guess, but it is not the Clippers because they were in San Diego at one point. But here's the final hint for 1 point. They have the longest losing streak for all teams so far this season.
Oh my God, dude. The Houston Rockets.
It is the Houston Rockets.
Oh my goodness.
So you got 7 points right now. If you get a three-pointer here, then you get the 10. But we'll see. I mean, I think you could definitely get at least a three-pointer on this one.
All right.
So we'll see. Fifth question, first hint. This current NBA player was once cut from his high school team.
NBA player was cut from Michael Jordan.
Well, okay, I'll repeat it. It was a current NBA player.
Oh, current, current,
Yeah,
current.
yeah.
Okay. God, I swear I heard this line a couple days ago. Who got cut? All right, give me a hint.
Okay, so the next hint is he said if he weren't in the NBA, he believes he would have been a content creator. As crazy as that is.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh man. God. I'm gonna need another hint.
Okay, so the third hint. Now, if you get this, and you can freely guess after this, but you'll get the 10 points total. He came out of Oak Hill Academy.
Oh man. Oh man. I was gonna guess Carmelo. Well, I'll guess Carmelo.
You guessing Carmelo?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess Carmelo.
It's a good thing you did because you got it. It is Carmelo Anthony.
I was trying to think of Oak Hill players that are currently in the NBA, and that one was a tough one.
He's him and like KD like are probably the top two that people think of. I also had in here like he's top 10 all time for total points, and then he's his known basketball attire is a hoodie, like because of hoodie Mello. So you
Yeah, that would have gave it away.
you would have got it anyways. But okay, so you got 10 right now, which is pretty good. That's where I said most people try to aim for. If you get the bonus question right, you'll have a commanding lead over everybody like that's ever done
Okay.
this so far. So we'll see. Now this is something about me in the NBA, so it might seem unfair because there's no hints, but you can just throw out your best guess.
Okay.
So the last NBA game that I attended and watched, like in person, not just like from my TV, but like actually in the arena and watched live. Who was the leading scorer in that game?
Jeez, man, there's so many players.
That's why this is
Um,
impossible level. Now, I will say though, you can at least have the simple hint of the fact that, I've probably been to a game somewhat recently, so it's someone that's played somewhat recently. So there is that, I guess.
I'll guess
Okay.
Zach Levine.
It is not Zach LaVine. Uh,
Do I get two more tries or no?
no, that for this one, it's just one guess and that's
All
it.
right.
The correct answer was Serge Ibaka. I got invited to a Raptors Pacers game with my this one guy from my dorm at college because he had like an extra ticket. And this is the last game I went to actually before the pandemic and stuff happened. Serge Ibaka was the leading scorer, so I was like, all right. So I figured I'd
Yes,
make
sir.
that one of these. Um, but yeah, I mean that one might have been hard, but after all, this is the impossible question. I think it is still pretty impressive that you did get 10 though, because I mean some people haven't gotten 10, so that's pretty good.
Hey, man, this game show could trick a lot of people. That was tricky. You were making my brain fog up.
I mean, I think you did pretty good though. But I think that's gonna do it for the show. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching. Any final thoughts for you?
Not really, man. Just go Timberwolves, go Bulls. Bulls doing their thing. Hopefully they prove themselves by the end of the season. They'll be a top three team in the league. But I don't know. I'm glad you guys, if you've made it this far, I hope you enjoyed the podcast and I enjoyed coming on here and you inviting me. It was an honor, man.
Well, I appreciate you appreciating me for inviting you. And I think it was fun. And I'll have his stuff down below. I'll put like check description down there so you can check out my man HEENDOO. He makes some fire content as well. So be sure to do that. Hit subscribe on him and turn on the notification bell as well. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching, and we're out. Peace.